The Cincinnati Bengals placed the franchise tag on their star receiver, Tee Higgins, one of their star receivers. It's nice to have a couple of them. But is that the end of the story? Is he just going to be in the Bengals' plans moving forward? James Rapien from Locked On Bengals joins me now. And James, it does seem like it's more complicated than just, okay, the Bengals tagged him and now we're done here. So what do you think is the most likely next step?
I think it's complicated because of the timing and when they tagged him. They didn't have to tag him on February 26th. We didn't have to see reports that they let Tee Higgins' camp know on Friday, February 23rd, Friday night, where I had to scramble down here to write something quickly about how Tee Higgins was getting tagged. And I think the timing is what makes it complicated. Are they doing this as a power move to show Tee Higgins' agent, David Mulligetta, that he's just not going anywhere? Or is there more to it where they are open for business this week specifically, which the new league year doesn't officially begin yet, but it does begin this week in the Combine in Indianapolis. So I do think that element is interesting. It's not something that the Bengals have done historically, but over the past few years, they've broken a lot of those trends. And so I do wonder if the tag and trade is at least a possibility going into Indy.
Given how good Tee Higgins has been, why do you think they didn't just come to an agreement on a long-term extension here?
I think there's a bunch of reasons. And you could start with Tee Higgins' injury history if you wanted to, and the fact that he had a career low in receptions and yards. And that was because of injury, to be clear, whether it was him or Joe Burrow's injury. But I look at it and I think there's more to it, especially now that the salary cap is what it is, the $255.4 million, the fact that we know what Tee Higgins would make on the franchise tag, not just this year, but if the Bengals want to tag him next year, and yeah, there's a price you pay for the back-to-back tags, but they know it's roughly $26 million. And so is Tee Higgins' agent, David Mulligetta, asking for more than $47 million guaranteed? Because if so, the Bengals hold the cards to pay Tee Higgins $47 million guaranteed over the next 2 years and keep him in Cincinnati if they wanted to go that route and they don't have to commit to him long term. So I think there's a lot there. I agree with you. I think getting a long-term deal done makes sense. That's what I would want to do. But if he's asking for $55 or $60 million guaranteed, I also get the Bengals saying, let's make you prove it this year on the field with 21.8.
We've seen star receivers get the tag and then end up being moved. That is exactly what happened in Green Bay with Davante Adams before he went to the Las Vegas Raiders. So let's say this is intractable. It is irreconcilable differences in a divorce, and it is time to move on. What teams do you think would be willing to pay what is likely to be a steep asking price? And what do you think that asking price is if you're Cincinnati?
The Raiders don't want to part with Davante Adams, do they? Because I know a team that would. No, I think it's kind of the usual suspects. Let's start with Carolina. Carolina called the Bengals about Tee Higgins before the trade deadline. They don't have a first-round pick, but could they offer the 33rd overall pick and a future second? Would that be appealing to the Bengals? I would say so. I think that's pretty darn good if you could get that. The Tennessee Titans with former Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan now at head coach. They have the 38th overall pick. Is that something that could get it done? DeAndre in 38? Oh, see, now we're talking. No, I don't think Hopkins would be included, but I think that the Bengals would probably demand a first rounder for Tee Higgins. And I think the NFL would probably be willing to part with a pick 33 through 65, let's say, and more of a day two selection. And so I think that's what could prevent a deal from getting done. But you're right. If they want to get ugly and make it ugly, Higgins' party, they could certainly go that route. They haven't historically. Justin Simmons is someone that played on the franchise tag in Denver before getting a long-term deal, and he's a David Mulligetta client. Jesse Bates last year with the Bengals, 2022, that is, before signing with Atlanta, played on the franchise tag. So there are options there, but the threat of the double tag is something that throws a wrench into it because of the positional value, because of what Higgins could make on the open market. I do wonder if they try to force the Bengals' hand a bit starting this week in Indianapolis at the Combine.
Will Tee Higgins stay in Cincinnati or be traded somewhere else? Stay in the know by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Bengals on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube.